I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our very good news station, ZLO.
Today is the trial of the century, where the town folks of Boston will be tried to determine if their participation in the Boston Tea Party was an act of activism or an act of vandalism.
More on this story when we come back to the courtroom in England.
And now, the trial of the century.
All rise. Oi, oi, oi. All manner of persons having anything to do before the Honorable Logan Sheets here holding this day, let them come forward, so that they shall be heard. God save the King in this honorable court. You may be seated.
This is the matter of townsfolk of Boston. At issue is whether or not the actions of the townsfolk of Boston were acts of activism or acts of vandalism. Sir Elijah, you may make your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, this alleged act of treachery was nothing more than an act of activism. This townsfolk of Boston did nothing more than act in a way meant to bring out the social change within these colonies. The townsfolk simply expressed their frustration about having no representation over matters of colonial taxation.
Thank you, Sir Gaston. Now, Sir Levi, you may make your opening statement on behalf of the prosecution.
Your Honor, may it please the court that this was an act of vandalism. The definition of vandalism is the policy or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. The destruction of 10,000 pounds of the Crown's property has nothing to do with social change or activism. The definition of vandalism, action involving deliberate destruction of or damage to public or private property. This is the exact description of the townfolk's actions during the Boston Tea Party.
Thank you, Sir Levy. Sir Gaston, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, the townsfolk of Boston peacefully asked Mr. Rush to allow the tea to be sent back to England. However, Mr. Rush declined this peaceful request. The Boston Tea Party was done because the government would not allow the ships to pass and return to tea of England. Your Honor, we call Mr. Rush this witness.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to God, the searcher of all hearts, that the testimony you are about to provide in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to God on the great last day? Do you so swear?
I do.
Mr. Rush, what time were you summoned by the townsfolk of Boston?
Around 10 o'clock in the morning.
10 o'clock. Why were you summoned by the townsfolk?
They wanted me to grant the ships in the harbor pass in order to return the tea to England.
And did you grant them the pass?
No, I did not.
Before you denied the pass to return to England, had the townsfolk ever tried to destroy any of the teas, or say what they wanted to destroy the tea?
No, the townfolk peacefully asked for the tea to be sent back to England. They never attempted to say they wanted to destroy the tea in Boston Harbor.
So, in your opinion, the townsfolk did everything in their power to have the tea sent back to England before the Tea Party incident, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Sir Levy, you may cross-examine the witness.
Mr. Rush, as you just testified, you denied the request for pass to return the tea to England. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So you will agree with me that once you denied requests for the pass to return the tea to England, that the townsfolk resorted to violence and destruction and threw the tea overboard into the Boston Harbor.
Yes, that is correct.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Roch, you may step down. You are excused.
Your Honor, I would like to call George Humes, a member of the crew that cut the tea crates open and threw the tea overboard to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to God, the searcher of all hearts, that the testimony you're about to provide is the matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to God on the last great day? Do you so swear?
I do.
Sir Levy, your witness.
Sir, can you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
George Hawes. Hawees.
Sir, did you take part in what's being called the Boston Tea Party?
Yes.
And did you help throw the tea into the Boston Harbor?
Yes, I did.
And what was the reason that you threw 10,000 pounds worth of tea overboard?
We, the colonists, needed to show the government that we did not want the tea and that the tea needed to be sent back to England or destroyed.
So you're admitting that the townsfolk of Boston planned this act on the property of the crown, so this so-called Boston Tea Party.
Yes.
Then this is vandalism. The townsfolk planned this attack on the crown's tea.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
I have no further questions.
Sir Gaston, you may cross-examine the witness.
Mr. Hawes, why did the townsfolk of Boston decide to throw the tea overboard?
Because we needed the king, all of those who govern us to hear our voice.
Your Honor, the townsfolk were simply protesting, and this was none other than activism.
Objection.
Overruled.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Howes, you may step down. You are excused. Sir Gaston, do you have any further witnesses?
No, Honor. The townsfolk rest their case.
Sir Levy, does the prosecution have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor. The prosecution rests the case.
Sir Gaston, you may make your closing argument for the townsfolk of Boston.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Your Honor, the actions of the humble townsfolk of Boston were meant to be nothing more than an act to bring us about social change. They had peacefully sought a solution by requesting a pass for the tea to be returned to England. It was only after this request that they returned to active activism. And this is what it is, activism, nothing more. The townsfolk of Boston did not act with the intent to destroy. The townsfolk of Boston acted with the intent to bring a social change. In the way that their tea was to be taxed and the way that they were to be represented in the government. I am asking Your Honor to find the actions of the good townsfolk of Boston were activism, not vandalism.
Thank you, Sir Gaston. Now, Sir Levy, you may make your closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. As I stated earlier, the definition of activism is the policy or action using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. The townsfolk of Boston want you to believe that this tea party was activism. It clearly was not. The evidence showed that there was a request for pass to return the tea to England that was denied. There was no vigorous campaigning. The definition of vandalism is action involving deliberate destruction of or damaging to public or private property. The townsfolk's tea party was just that, deliberate destruction of property, destruction of the crown's tea. There was no vigorous campaigning or attempts to settle their problem. Dumping crates of tea into the water of the harbor is destruction. Your Honor, I'm asking you to find that the townsfolk of Boston acted as vandalism, not activism. God save the king.
First, I would like to thank both sides for their argument. In the matter, I have considered the arguments made by both sides, and the issue that I have to decide here is whether the Boston Tea Party was an act of activism or an act of vandalism. I consider what the townsfolk did before they threw the tea into the harbor. How they did try to address the issues they were having about being taxed. What they did was only make a request to allow the ships to return the tea to England. There was no evidence supporting vigorous campaign. They were simply told no to their request. The townsfolk did not try to address their problems with taxation in another manner or make another request. They simply took matters into their own hands. They took the tea in their own hands and dumped it into the harbor with the purpose of destroying it. Bringing about political or social change does not mean that you take part in deliberate destructive acts. The townsfolk destroyed 10,000 pounds of tea worth of the Crown's tea. This was not activism, this was an act of vandalism. I find the Boston Tea Party was an act of vandalism. I hereby sentence the townsfolk of Boston to be bound by the Intolerable Acts as suggested by King George III, which includes the Boston Port Acts. The Boston port will be closed until the destroyed tea has been paid for. The Massachusetts Government Act. The Massachusetts Charter will now be controlled by the British government and will be limited town meetings. The Administration of Justice Act. The trials against royal officials will be held in England. The Quartering Act. This will require the colonists to house the British soldiers. This court is now adjourned.
Breaking news. After a court has found that the acts of Boston Tea Party to be acts of vandalism, King George III has sentenced the townsfolk of Boston to the intolerable acts. Too damn late for the response of the people.